Hi everyone, so I'm just going to quickly go over using constraints in Maya, setting up some very basic simple constraints that we talked about this week in week 1 of our rigging class. In order to access the constraint menu, you need to be in Animate. So first of all, head up here to this menu and swap it over to the animation menu. The other way you can get there is by hitting F2 on the keyboard. The F keys, F3 is polygons, and F2 will take us into animation. F1 will bring up the help options for Maya. Constraints work differently to the way that parenting works. So that the object that I want to be constrained to is the one that I click first, and the object that's going to be constrained is the one that I click second. So in this case, if I want the sphere here to match the translation of this cone, I click the cone first, and then I click the sphere, and then I choose constrain, and there's an option for point here, so point constraint, click the options box, maintain offset, and just hit apply. And you'll see that channels for the translate turn blue for the sphere. So that basically means that they are connected to something else. So if I now move this cone around, you'll see that this the shape turns purple. Now if you're not seeing this, you can go up to shading and choose wireframe on shaded. And that will basically allow you to see both what objects are connected, but also see the shader still at the same time. So now if I move this guy around, you'll notice that they move together. If I grab the sphere and move him around, and then I move the cone, it'll just snap back to where it was constrained. So the constraint's actually overriding the translation information for that cube. Now when this was created, you'll notice that there was a little plus next to the sphere, and under that you can see this is the constraint here. So I can select the sphere, or I can select the constraint. The constraint has got some information on it, and if I want to get rid of it, I can just hit delete on the keyboard, and you'll see that that's no longer purple, and these two objects are no longer constrained together. So the other types of constraints that we covered in class were also an orientation constraint. So if I want the orientation of this cube to match this cone, I can click the cone, click the cube, constrain, orient, check maintain offsets being ticked, and then click add. And now if I turn this cone, the cube will match its rotation to the cone, but it won't match its translation or its scale. And then if I go in and delete the cube constraint, you can also go in and there's one here for scale, obviously, that does pretty self-explanatory. And then there's also a parent constraint, which allows us to have the cone to be constrained to the sphere. I choose the sphere first, shift click the cone, constrain, parent constraint. And you'll see that all the channels for the cone have turned blue in the translate and rotate. And now wherever this goes, if I rotate him, he'll follow. If I translate him, he'll follow around. So basically the parent constraint means that the cone will do everything that the sphere is doing except for scale. And last but not least, there's also the aim constraint. So say I want that this cone to be pointing at this cube, I can click the cube first, then the cone, and then constrain, maintain offset, and then just hit apply. Now if I hit close on that and I move the cube around, you'll see it's trying to point towards the cube, but we really want the tip, we want this bit, the end, to be pointing at the cube. So what we'll do is we'll go into the aim constraint here, and we'll see it's already got a little bit of offset going on here, but if I set all that to 0, does that give us what we want? Not quite. So you might have to go in here and change some of the values a little bit. I'll try negative 90. Okay, so 90 degrees, these are all degree angles, so like 180 degrees would be a complete flip, and 90 degrees would be a half turn. In this case, I'll try 90. There we go, it's doing what we want. And now if I move that around, he will point to and follow the cube. And that's a very quick overview of using constraints in Maya.